Are the Badgers primed for a bounce back season? It's the BS Report with Brian Smith, crossover edition. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans, Portal fans? It is a Locked On crossover edition, Locked On Portal, Locked On Badgers. We got Brian Smith here. We're talking recruiting. The Badgers have hit a couple big in-state targets, plus another big fish on the board we're going to talk about. Talk about the Badger schedule coming up this upcoming season, and are the Badgers primed for a bounce-back season, and what happens if they don't? Brian, let's start here. You reached out. You said, let's talk Badgers. Let's talk, in your words, because you are noted to at times be a pessimist with the Badgers. Let's be super clear.
99%.
Also a realist. But you reached out and said, hey, let's talk about the Badgers being a bounce-back candidate this year. Give me your thoughts here.
Number one, Colton Joseph gives them a chance. I'm probably higher on him than most. I also, for those who don't know, do Locked On Seminoles. That's a guy that when Malzahn was still associated with Florida State, that's somebody they were looking at like he's a freaky athlete. He had 179 yards rushing last year against Indiana. Like, that is insane because he's had more rushing yards in a game than anybody since Signetti was in Bloomington. And he's a quarterback, so that tells you the kind of athlete that you're getting. Secondarily, I think the system matters, having your coordinators and stuff around, like figuring stuff out. They've kind of went through stuff. They're kind of where they are now. It just has to happen. And finally, they spent some NIL. That helps. And then just as a bonus, last year you could argue Wisconsin's schedule was the most difficult in America. Conservatively, top 5 nationally. And like, what are we doing here? I remember the back 6 games, you and I looking at it going, really? This is not good. So I was surprised they ended up with, what was it, 4? I didn't think they were going to get to 4.
Yeah.
Quarterback was, they just been sucker punched at the quarterback position with injuries. Now you've got a real quarterback. You've got more speed on the perimeter, Shamar Rigby, etc. I think they're going to be an annoying team. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten or something, but if they won 7 or 8 games, would I be shocked? No. Like, they'll be competitive with Iowa again. They've got USC and they've got UCLA in the middle of the season. They'll beat at least one of them. They're going to be an annoying team for somebody, and those games matter. But as I told you before this podcast, the game that I have circled, and maybe Badger fans don't care about this, but this is the one you got to win so you don't get in a bad spot, is Michigan State on October 3rd. The reason I say that, they are completely rebuilding. That program is in shambles, and I am being kind. I haven't heard from our Michigan State host in a long time. There's a reason for that. He doesn't want me to tell the truth on his podcast. He's already seeking psychiatric help because of watching the Spartans. You have to win that game, and you got UCLA. Like, you've got a chance there. But down the stretch, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out now for any fans that want to comment. The end of the season, 4 games that are winnable. Last year's November slate was the opposite of this.
Yeah.
You got Rutgers at camp. You got Maryland on the road. It's, no offense, Maryland stinks. They do have a quarterback. That young quarterback's pretty good. Purdue stinks. It's in West Lafayette, but it's Purdue. Then you got Minnesota at home. If you don't beat Minnesota this year, Ryan's going to need a shrink as well. So minimum, you need to win 3 of those games. And Rutgers cannot be a loss. That's a fireable offense. So 7 wins here. Ryan, are you going over under 7 wins for the Badgers? I want to know right now.
I think I'm going over, right? I think I'm going over. And you look at the schedule. Here's the thing. Look at last year's schedule. And I think you and I even did a show on it. And we said, how many of these games would you be shocked if they won? And it was last year. And you had Oregon on the schedule. You had Ohio State. You had Michigan. You had Indiana. This year, how many games on this schedule would you be shocked if the Badgers won?
Notre Dame, and I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they won at Iowa. I'm going to pick the Hawkeyes, but Penn State maybe. Those are the only 3. USC's at Camp Randall. They don't play well on the road. It's a better roster. But like every other game is winnable to me and very possible. Schedule last year was polar opposite. There were like 8 games I immediately put an L by. I'm like, that schedule is ridiculous. And that's where they win 4 games. So, yeah, this schedule is way, way easier for the Badgers. It's not even close.
And that's where I'm at. If you get legitimate quarterback play, just good, just normal, just on injured quarterback play, and then you go from the schedule we had last year to this one. The thing with last year's schedule, Brian, is they didn't just play every elite team in the Big Ten. They played every middleweight too. They played Washington and they played Illinois. They replaced those this year with Rutgers and Purdue. And Michigan State. It's a much easier schedule. I'll take it a step further. I almost think Luke Fickell almost needs to win 8 games to have some type of proof of concept this year. Let me say that, and then let me also add this, and then kick it back to you. I've had people reach out to me and tell me, Ryan, that's still really not that easy of a schedule. Iowa's good, USC, you have to play Notre Dame and Penn State. And my counter to that, Brian, is in the Big Ten. This is the easiest schedule you're going to be able to get going forward.
The only pushback I would say is when they scheduled Notre Dame, Wisconsin was good.
Yeah, fair.
It's, and the same thing, like people were picking on Notre Dame. So like, well, Wisconsin's like when they scheduled the game was like 10, 12 years ago. It's just unfortunate Wisconsin's not up right now. But you're right about you're going to play 1 or 2 of the heavyweights on the road every year because the league is massive. It's just going to happen. They could have made it a lot worse. They don't play Ohio State or Oregon at all this year. I don't want to hear it. Those are arguably the 2 best programs in the league. As a matter of fact, they pretty much are. So you're not even getting them at home to worry about, and they're not beating either one of those teams, barring something very unforeseen. So, yeah, this is a much favorable schedule. And on top of that, USC's at home. The difference between USC in the Coliseum and anywhere else is about 10 to 15 points. Like they are a totally different team under Ryan. I don't know why that is. But I expect Penn State again. You'll at least go to a bowl game. You'll be down in Florida at the Cheetos Bowl or whatever it's called, something like that. And that's better than sitting at home in the snow all winter. Go to see the Badgers down in Florida or Texas or wherever it is at the bowl game. Enjoy your season. I think they're going to be much better. I do have some questions about the offensive line that you and I were talking about. We need to get into here in a minute, but this is going to be a better roster, more speed, more talent. And thank God they've spent some more NIL. So I don't have to yell at Ryan quite as much about the NIL program.
He'll still yell at me about something. I guarantee it.
I have ideas.
We might get into one of those ideas next segment. But before we get there, I've been thinking about this recently. Is it possible people have buried the Badgers a little too early? And what I mean by that is you have the hardest schedule possible last year with a 4th-string quarterback at times. I mean, you're playing a guy who transferred in he was a transfer from a lower level program that never meant to play. That's the guy that's taking starting reps in some of these games against the toughest schedule possible. I mean, is it as simple as just the quarterback was hurt? They didn't spend a ton on the roster and the schedule is really hard. Of course, they only won 4 games. And now a lot of those problems are alleviated.
I'll put it to you like this. In the immortal words of one Bobby Bowden, I always thought that I was going to beat you if I had better players. When you're on your 4th-string quarterback, that phrase goes out the window. Bobby Bowden didn't beat anybody with his 4th-string quarterback either, and he finished in the top 4 in the rankings at Florida State 14 years in a row. It's one of the greatest streaks of all time. So I think he kind of knew what he was doing there. Get better players. They weren't spending enough, and they had injuries, and they had a crazy schedule. It just was the perfect storm. That'll be the worst season in Wisconsin history from 1990 forward, like over a 50 year. That'll last year be the worst year they have. They're going to be better than that. I'm not saying they're going to be 10-2 or better every year, but 4-8's the anomaly. I don't think that they should be really looked at now that they're spending more NIL. They apparently have a real quarterback now. There's reasons to enjoy watching Wisconsin when they have the football. Last year, I couldn't watch Wisconsin's offense. Couldn't watch it. He was unwatchable. So, yeah, I think they're going to be a much better team. And if you want to bury them going into this year, go ahead. But they're going to go to a bowl game.
I love it. Let me ask you this. So from the Discord, floor and ceiling win total from Jack. You asked me my over-under. I took the over on 7. I think 8. What is your floor and ceiling, though, here for this team?
I would say 6 for the floor and 9 for the ceiling. I think that's pretty basic. If they don't go to a bowl, it would have to be another injury situation. And even then, it just can't happen. Fickell has to go to a bowl. We'll talk about that a little more, but 6 wins needs to be the floor because, again, There's no Oregon. There's no Ohio State. I'm looking at this schedule. Wait a minute. There's no Michigan.
Yeah.
If you don't play those 3 programs and you don't go to a bowl, that's fireable. That's how I look at it. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
Well, I'm throwing in Indiana. Recent.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I mean, it's
no Indiana either.
I mean, yeah. Like, I get it. You're playing USC. You're playing Iowa. Okay, great. Big deal. Yeah, you got Notre Dame preseason. You're not going to win that game. Okay, whatever. But the Big Ten slate was way easier. I think they realized after they put that schedule out last year, like, man, we screwed these guys. Let's at least give them a little bit of ease. Here's Rutgers. We're going to trade out Oregon for Rutgers. You know what I mean? Like, let's do that.
Let's let these guys off the mat. All right, we're going to take a quick second. We're going to go back, talk about offensive line questions, an interesting, maybe an interesting rotation we have to talk about. Plus, what happens if this doesn't go right next year? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. Brian Smith, the BS Report. Thank you for tuning in to this crossover, and we'll be right back with you.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. All 4 number 1 seeds, UConn, UCLA, Texas, and South Carolina, have completely dominated the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. UConn rolled with a 98-45 victory over Syracuse behind AZ Fudd, who had a 34-point explosion, while South Carolina has been led by Joyce Edwards coming off a 23-point game. UCLA leaned on Lauren Betts with a 35-point performance in an 87-68 win over Oklahoma State. And Texas advanced comfortably with a 40-point show from Madison Booker. And now we're headed to the Sweet 16. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is still here. The brackets are still here. The buzzer beaters, the favorites, a couple of the underdogs are still out there. And it is a great time to get in on that action over at our great partners at FanDuel. Nonstop action from the tip to the final nets that are cut down. And you're going to find all that over on FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers a great way to earn and stay into that action all tournament long. You get up to $300 in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Again, take some of those favorites, take some of those underdogs, game picks, same game parlays. If you want to boost up that profit potential even a little bit more, it's the perfect time because in the tournament, there's time for something new every single day, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. Visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. Great partners of the show, both of these channels. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. All right, Brian, let's talk about big picture. What if it doesn't work out this year? So you have the easier schedule. Let's say you get relatively decent health luck. You spent money. That's just it then, right? Like you're year 4 in the Fickell era. You have to show improvement. You absolutely have to this season.
2 questions for you. Number 1, what would the buyout be at the end of this year? That's fair enough. That's a very important number. And number 2, if they made a move on Fickell, this is the one, drum roll, please. Will there be another, like another booster that stepped up this year and they've done well? Is there somebody else that's willing to really go all in if you go get somebody? Because like you're spinning your wheels if you just get an okay coach. The boosters are not dumb. You and I have talked about this. Why am I throwing my money in a blender is a phrase that I use with some of these schools. It's like, you really think Mississippi State's consistently going to have people throw money? Like, you know, there's certain schools, man, it's hard. It's really hard. Wisconsin's not Mississippi State, but it's still one of those schools that traditionally doesn't. Do you think they will take another step forward in addition to what they did going into 26? Because if not, that's going to change who I talk about for potential candidates. Because they got to get rid of, if they don't go to a bowl, Fickell's got to go. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that's fireable. Because again, schedule, got a quarterback, you spent money, got a good receiver, Rigby, etc. Are they going to spend enough? What do you think?
I think there's some renewed ability to shake the trees a little bit, for lack of a better word. So I do think that if this doesn't work out, I think there will be somebody that would step up to help push the transition forward if that's the direction they want to go. Now, it is worth pointing out the athletic director, Chris McIntosh, former Wisconsin Badger great, offensive lineman, by the way. Fickell's his guy, right? And I think that complicates what ideally this just works, right? Ideally, this year's better, quarterback schedule, everything we talked about, and this isn't a discussion. If this is a discussion because it doesn't work, the athletic director is the guy. The chancellor of the program is turning over, so a new chancellor, a new president of the university is coming in. There's questions about who would make that decision, and if it's the athletic director, would it also mean the AD's gone? It muddies the waters.
Oh, wow, that's a really good piece of intel. Is there anybody else they could bring? You hate firing your own, but hey, at some point it's still a job. So if you don't get the right results on the gridiron, I hate that it's McIntosh because he was a hell of a player at Wisconsin. So it is what it is. But he's not going to want to fire his own guy because that's admitting guilt. But at the same time, if you win 5 games or fewer this year, he may just have to go out the door anyway. I'm going to go ahead and throw out a name. It's Brian Haynes. Like, if they don't hire somebody that's already been a head coach, he's the DC at Indiana. I think we all know he's a Midwest guy. He's from Ohio. He's G8 at Ohio State, Indiana, been around a few small schools. Now he's back with the Hoosiers. That would be the guy I would go after. They're probably not going to go after the Lane Kiffin type and spend $100 million. That's not the Wisconsin way. I think Haynes would be to be honest, he's probably better than 80% of the head coaches right now. He's certainly running circles around them. Ask Dan Lanning how it went. First play of the game in the playoffs, pick 6. So, yeah, I think it ends badly. The McIntosh thing, though, that's more than muddy waters, man. That's like throwing in a mud pit, because that means it's going to be really ugly from a political standpoint. I know Wisconsin hates that stuff. There may not be a way around it because your boosters they're going to shut their pockets. You're going to lose either way. Good luck.
What would be the quickest way to rip off the Band-Aid is essentially the path to follow. But again, I actually think this is Ryan being optimistic, which is not a shock to anybody who listens to the show, are you? But you're actually kind of taking the same track here. I think this season is going to be better. And I think this is potentially changing that into what's coming forward instead of continually trying to churn about what's happening right now. Let's talk offensive line for a second, because an interesting name popped up. I went to the first practice, and reports from the last 2 practices have said the same thing. PJ Wilkins at left tackle right now with the first team. Again, it's very early in spring. There's a new offensive line coach. We're talking spring ball. We're not even in fall yet. But you're obviously, you know the SEC pretty well. You know, you live down there. You help cover some of those programs. You know a lot of these players. Old Miss offensive guard last year, PJ Wilkins. What are your thoughts on him potentially being a tackle in the Big Ten?
I don't necessarily like it. He played guard last year pretty much exclusively for Ole Miss. Started the first couple games, then was a backup who played quite a bit, but he wasn't the starter. Like, he was a solid pass protector on the interior, but he's a mauler. Like, he's got good feet, but is he a left tackle? Probably not. He's listed at like 340. I wouldn't be surprised if he's bigger than that. I think he's more 1995 offensive tackle that just runs over people. In today's world, though, there's going to be a 230-pound guy on second down and long that's, you know what he's going to do. Can he stay in front of him? I'm a little leery of that. But you can't have your cake and eat it too all the time coming off 4 wins. So my question is, what's wrong with Kevin Haywood? And is Emerson Mandel, or is it Barrett Nelson, or is it one of these other guys that's got to step up, right? Lucas, Simmons comes over from Florida State. I don't think he's ever going to figure it out. But somebody has to be that. If it's PJ, that may be a bad sign, because I just don't think he's a tackle.
Let me ping you on a couple things really quick there, because I think you said a couple things that really caught my attention. What is wrong with Kevin Haywood? He was a left tackle 2 years ago, tore his ACL. Now he's at right tackle. Is it as big of a deal in today's football as it used to be? Like, in terms of having your best athlete at left tackle? Because I feel like pass rushers are on both sides of the line of scrimmage now. Obviously, you want your quarterback's blind side protected. I understand that part of it. I don't know if it matters as much as it used to. Am I crazy there?
Unfortunately, it's because both sides have pass rushers now. You need 2 left tackles, and it's just not realistic. That's why the quarterback run game is so important. You have to slow them down. Otherwise, they're out the gate. The 320-pound guy is not going to block a 240 when he just says, "To hell with the run game. I'm just going to come off the edge and dip and rip." So you have to be able to mix it up with that and keep teams honest, but the other part's just raw talent. Wisconsin still has some decent athletes out there. I'm surprised. I don't know what's going on with Wilkins being the tackle. I'm a little surprised by that because I think he would be the perfect mauler guard. He should be a starter at right guard or left guard. Maybe they just have so many guys there, they're trying it. This is the other part. They may not think this is an experiment that holds out.
Right.
But they want to have a backup plan in case, they know Hayward play it. Maybe they move him back. They got to have a backup that's got reps. That's the other part of this. And if that's the part of the deal, great. And of course, if he went out there and just balled, then you're good. I'm going to say the same thing over and over again. Guys like that are better at guard when they play the elite teams, like SC's got edge rushers. Notre Dame's got edge. Like Boubacar Traore is going to be licking his chops for Notre Dame. That's an NFL edge rusher. You're going to put a guard out there? Like those games, Iowa, you know how well coached they are up front. 8 out of the 12 games won't matter. But those 4, like the upper echelon teams, if you don't have the right left tackle, that's where things get dicey.
And I think you hit on something there. Like, it's so early in spring and a new offensive line coach coming in. I think it's possible they're just playing with combinations, who can play what. And to your point, if Wilkins can be a backup swing tackle, that's a win, right? And maybe it's somebody else. But one of those guys we talked about on this show, and you just mentioned him, so I wanted to ping you on him. You said you're not sure if Simmons will ever fully figure it out. Simmons, the kid coming in from Florida State, overseas kid, I think from Germany, came over to the States. Massive frame. Like he's built the type of way you probably want a tackle to be built. But what's the concern you have with Simmons?
I just never thought he was the most natural bender. Like he's 6'7", 6'8". He's a big drink of water, man. And I knew him. I've been around him. He's a nice kid, all that stuff. Had offers from everybody, just decided to go to Florida State, and he never played. And their offensive line stunk. Not warm and fuzzies there, Ryan. That's not a good sign. I covered Florida State. I'm like, okay, he'll play this next year. And they immediately portaled over him. And I'm like, okay, they don't think this guy's ever playing. And then he transferred. So they didn't think he was going to play. They didn't make an effort to keep him. And you're one of the worst O-line teams in the major P4, if not the worst. So if he ends up being your left tackle against Notre Dame, there could be a sack record. So
it's terrifying.
I don't expect him to be playing for the Irish. I expect him to get about as many snaps as I do. So you'll be good for that. But tackle is a premium, man. Hardly any of those guys go in the portal that are good.
Yeah.
If they're in the portal, the only reason there's a chance if they're going back home or if they know it's specific, there's got to be something really specific. Otherwise, they're just taking a guess. Like he went somewhere he thought he might play. And I just don't think he's going to be that guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, the Badgers last year, Kevin Haywood tears his ACL. They tried to go in the portal to find a replacement, and he just couldn't do it. You can't find a guy to step in at left tackle. So they struggled all year with it. And maybe that's where you can find a guard. And if you think there's potential there to flip him to tackle, to your point, even if he's just okay, maybe that's right.
Yeah, because if left tackle's bad, it changes every play call. It sucks, man. Except for quarterback, it's arguably the most important position on the field.
That's a good point. All right, we're going to take a quick second here, come back. A big target for the Badgers on the recruiting portal, plus a couple in-state wins. We haven't had a chance to talk to Brian about that's coming up next on the Locked On Badgers Locked On Portal crossover. Also want to tell you about our Everydayer programs. If you want to check out ad-free episodes of the Locked On Portal, Locked On Badgers, you can go find those on our Everydayer page in the show. The links will be in the show notes as well. Go check that out. Also a Locked On exclusive Discord. So if you want to chop it up with Brian or myself on that Discord, great way to check out those links. All right, let's take a quick second here for our friends of the show. We're going to go back with big recruiting targets for Wisconsin. But first, as always, want to say thank you for tuning into both of our channels and then talk to you about our good friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. And I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures, commission, merchant, and swap firm. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Indeed. And there's a lot going on in the workplace. You have chaos. You have inboxes overflowing, deliverables to hit, clients to keep happy, customers to reach out to. Oh, and by the way, you got to fill this job over here. It's tough. The pressure's on, and you need the right fit to push your job forward. Find that fit on Indeed sponsored jobs. Find the person with the right certifications, experience, location, skills, qualifications. Instead of hoping they stumble on your job posting, find the right person purposefully. Right now, here's a stat that says it all. In the time we've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed. Eddie George's number, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and actually interview the candidates that you want. Less stress, less time, more results. When you and your listeners use this incredible service, you will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go over to Indeed.com/podcast. Right now, support our shows by saying you heard about Indeed on these podcasts. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Brian, let's talk some recruiting, man. Let's get back to where we started. That's how our shows always used to be, just recruiting. I'm excited to hit a couple names with you quick. Let's start at quarterback. So Jack Sorgi has emerged as the Badgers' primary 2027 target. Badger fans are familiar with him, son of Jim Sorgi, former Badgers quarterback. This is a Louisville decommit, 4-star kid, good size. What are your thoughts on Jack Sorgi?
He plays just outside of Indianapolis. No shocker, because his dad played with the Colts. He lives not all that far from the Colts practice facility. Plays at a smaller level school, so it's kind of hard to grade him. So, big school football in Indiana is pretty good, but smaller is not. And he kills people, which he should. But he makes a lot of the weird throws, different arm angles and all that. And having a dad that's an NFL quarterback kind of helps. But at the same time, it's the measurables that I like. This is a kid that has the size to play in the Big Ten and be a multi-year starter. I think they got a pretty good piece here. There's a little bit of risk because, again, he plays at a smaller school. He didn't transfer to an IMG or even locally, like I'm an Indianapolis guy originally. Could have went to Ben Davis, could have went to Carmel or Fishers or any of those. No, he stayed where he's at a smaller program. That's the only knock I have on it. And it's probably why his ranking will never be high. Super hard to grade those kids because he's killing guys that have no business on the field with him. But he can throw the deep ball. He can throw the out. He's got some mobility, and he changes arm angles, does all that stuff. He's pretty advanced. I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, really quick, you mentioned the son of the NFL quarterback. He's pretty advanced. He can make a lot of the throws. It feels like some of that just comes when you grow up around a guy who played the position. Like, it feels like he just has, when you watch the film, off-platform throws. It looks like he'll read the field a little bit, which in high school I know is tough to see, but he'll come back left to right. It just feels like he's got a pretty good feel of the game when you compare his film to other high school kids.
Yeah, like I go to a lot of events that have elite players. This kid would fit in at any Elite 11, battle tournament, or Under Armour camp, or anything else. He would fit right in the frame especially. And some of those throws, obviously, there's a certain quarterback that wears 15 in Kansas City that kind of got that started. I've met his trainer, and they practice that stuff. Now everybody does. So kids that are in just the middle of nowhere at some small school, like Sorgi, can do that too. And it's normal. By the time they're a senior in high school, it's secondhand. Like, it's no big deal. Wisconsin could use a little of that in their passing game, a little sleight of hand. They need some guys that can make special plays. Maybe this will be the next turnaround player for them, because when was the last time they had a great quarterback? Like, all the way through. It's been forever.
It's Russell Wilson, man. I mean, that's it. Maybe Jack Cohn, if you call him
Cohn was pretty good. He was
pretty good. But they had Graham Mertz, but they didn't have the good version of him. Like, he was better at Florida. So,
oh boy.
Let's move on to the next guy here. A couple of in-state kids. Guys I've been excited to talk to you about. Let's start with Corz Loken, the tight end, 6'5", 220, top 175 kid. If you look at the 247 composite, this is a kid who had offers from, I think Notre Dame was in on him, some SEC schools, ACC schools, big frame, multi-sport athlete. Thoughts on Corz Loken?
This is the kid that has left the state of Wisconsin lately. There's no way around it. He can play as an inline tight end. He could be your hip guy, meaning he plays H-back or right behind the main tight end. He can play in the slot. Hell, he could be the guy down in the goal line. You just play out at the boundary and basically tell everybody you're throwing a fade. Hey, if you want to put a corner on him, you can. He's going to push him out of the way. If you want to put a linebacker on him, we'll run like a double move or something. He's a really good athlete. He's got a chance to play in the NFL. I'm curious to see if he ends up being more of an inline guy long-term or plays some more on the perimeter. But right now he's a little balanced, like the way his frame is for how I would project him. I don't really, no offense to his high school, I don't care how they use him. I just look at the frame and the athleticism. That's a guy that's got a chance. Is he going to get better? Is he going to get bigger, stronger? All that, sure. But it's just going to be up to him. Not the biggest guy yet, but that's okay. He'll be 240, 245 in a year. I bet he plays as a freshman. He won't redshirt. They don't have guys like him coming in. And the Badgers, if they've had some pretty good tight ends over the years, this could be maybe their next really good one. And they could, again, that's a weapon. When do we say Wisconsin's got offensive weapons? Not very often. They need guys like him to stay in state.
Yeah, that's well said. Let's go to another in-state kid, Isaac Miller. You got a 6'6", 250-pound defensive end, edge player. Really nice offer list again. You had reported offers from Miami, Michigan, several other Big Ten schools. How about Iowa and Indiana offering? Like, those are two benchmark type schools that know how to identify talent, Brian.
If Iowa likes alignment, I like alignment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know you hate Iowa, but you're not going to deny what they can do. So when they offer, that's a good sign. And then, of course, Cignetti's that, like, last year's the most iconic anomaly that we've ever seen in college football. So if they offer a kid, you're looking at it. I think this is a good sign. I like this film anyway, but we looked at this kid and you say, this is the guy that can grow into a 3-tech. At worst, he's a guy, maybe it's even better, can play 5-tech, meaning strong side end. And on third down, you kick him inside. He's going against the guard because he's going to weigh 280 to 290. This, in a lot of ways, he's more important than tight end because it's just harder to find guys that can weigh over 250 and will play on the D-line. Wisconsin's made, like, that big kid they had last year that was a former walk-on or what. Like, you're not going to get that every year. You got to win more recruiting battles for defensive linemen. And for those you don't know, I always pick on Ryan. He needs to be the defensive line recruiting coordinator. He needs to up his game. This is a good sign right here because this is the kind of kid that can play in Michigan. He's a kid that can play at Ohio State. Yeah, this is a good pickup for the Badgers.
I don't know if I've ever specifically asked you this, and maybe we'll go out on this question, but Badger fans are kind of split on in-state recruiting at times. There's a group of Badger fans that say, if there's an in-state kid, you got to get him. You can't let talent leave the state. There's another group that says, I don't really care. Just get talent. Where do you fall on the Badgers needing to recruit the state?
Well, that depends on the following. If you've got a big NIL budget, it's no big deal. Like Miami in the last few years, believe it or not, they've let a lot of kids go from down south in South Florida. Really irritated a lot of the fans, but they went to the final game this last year. They're not talking about it as much. If you're going to go get the elite kids from California, like they got a DN that's going to help replace Ruben Bain. He's from like Los Angeles. They don't care. Kid was like a high 4-star or barely a 5-star, depending on the service. You think Badgers are going to care if they get a kid from Houston or LA? No. If they're getting elite kids, which means, again, the NIL's got to take another, then they won't care. But if you're going to be more regional, you have to get those kids. And I still think that since most of those guys are going to be Badger fans, especially the linemen, they got to get them because there just aren't as many linemen. Get those kids, tight end linemen that have a connection to your school. If you miss out on the punter or the safety or whatever, it is what it is. But the big guys, they got to get those kids.
Yeah, I'm mostly with you on that. Let me ask you, the other part of it, I think, is, and you tell me if I'm crazy on this, because I could be nostalgic, Brian, because I'm a Badger fan. I know what it means to me, right? But I feel like having 4 of those kids in your locker room from every class, I think from a culture standpoint, I think those kids, are probably more likely to stay and develop.
Oh, 100%.
But also just from a culture standpoint, like there's got to be something that is important about having kids that really just love the motion W, having a couple of those kids.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And that's part of it. The linemen kind of, as you've seen the last, like when they had the left tackle go down, how many linemen transfer that are good? Hardly any.
Yeah.
Those guys you want to keep. Plus, it's a position that's important, and there just aren't enough. Like it's all across the board. So those linemen, yeah, you definitely do. If it's a middle linebacker, if it's the best kicker in the country, whatever, go get that kid that's local. If you miss one out of your top 5 prospects in state, it is what it is. One of them's going to go to Iowa or Notre Dame or Tennessee or whatever. That's fine. You need to get the bulk of them, though. And they haven't even done that lately. I mean, there's been a few cases where kids had ties to other schools. Okay. Jim Flanagan's kid's going to Notre Dame in this class. Well, he played at Notre Dame. Okay. You weren't getting that kid. That's fine. But anybody else that doesn't have a tie, why are you losing them? Because that kid can be a team captain that is proud of wearing the W. That does. I agree. That's a culture fit. Fans can relate to it. And that kid's going to play hard for the W every day.
That's well said. He is Brian Smith. I'm Ryan Harings. We got a crossover edition of Locked On Badgers, Locked On Portal podcast. When you're done here, go check out both platforms, both shows. It does help if you like, subscribe. Go check out the Everydayer program. Again, ad-free episodes of both channels, both shows is available on that program. Those links will be in the show notes. Brian, take us out. Anything else that I didn't hit on that you wanted to talk about with the Badgers and your optimistic viewpoint of this team going forward?
I think that if they don't go to a bowl game this year, it'd be very surprising. I think 7 wins is about where I'm at. Be happy that you're going to go to a bowl game, man. It's been the last couple of years been rough. Enjoy the opportunity to watch good football again and just be a Badger.
I love it, man. On Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.